twists are designed to be shocking, which is why it's no surprise that this technique is used all the time in horror. By implementing flashbacks, cliffhangers, an unreliable narrator, and a few red herrings, slashers, gothic thrillers, and paranormal dramas can misdirect viewers until their closing moments, leaving audiences gobsmacked when the truth is unveiled. But why settle for one twist when you can have two or more? Now, even though it feels like multiple revelations should elevate the scares exponentially, it's not quite that simple. If a twist isn't executed effectively, it can come across as stupid, nonsensical, forced, or unintentionally funny. As such, a horror flick with multiple unexpected developments requires more care and finesse. Now, we do already have a video on this topic, but there were just so many more to talk about. So I'm Ellie for What Culture, and here are 10 more great horror movies with multiple plot twists. Number 10, April Fool's Day. In Fred Walton's 1986 slasher comedy, Kit Graham and her college buddies arrive at an island mansion for a spring break that happens to fall on April Fool's Day. As is tradition, their host, Muffy St. John, prepares a series of pranks to celebrate her guest's final year at school. The gags start innocent enough, but things take a dark turn when Kit stumbles upon the severed heads of her friends. She also learns the phone lines have been cut, meaning there's no way to call for help. And when she finds Muffy's decapitated head, Kit discovers her so-called host is actually Muffy's twisted twin sister, Buffy. While being chased by Buffy, Kit dashes into the living room only to see her friends are alive and well. It turns out Muffy, who's also alive, concocted this whole scheme and all her guests were in on it. Muffy explains that she's transforming the island into a staged horror resort, so set up the fake massacre on Kit as a dress rehearsal. Kit then joins the group with a bottle of champagne, relieved there's no real killer. However, the final scene of April Fool's Day paints a very different picture, at least at first, as while Muffy is playing with a jack-in-a-box in her bedroom, her throat is slit with a razor by one of Kit's friends, Nan. Seconds later, Nan reveals her weapon of choice is a trick razor, and she was merely pranking Muffy. In a way, it's satisfying to see Muffy get duped herself after she scared Kit out of her mind for the sake of an elaborate prank. Number 9, Superhost. Superhost concludes with a double fake-out, a little like April Fool's Day, but goes in the opposite direction. The chiller thriller follows travel vloggers Claire and Teddy, who lodge with an eccentric host called Rebecca, hoping her deranged shenanigans will boost their viewership numbers. But when they learn Rebecca is crazier than they could have ever imagined, Claire and Teddy realize they've made a huge mistake. Although the synopsis, poster, and trailers make Superhost look pretty formulaic, it's anything but predictable. At the 1 hour mark, it comes to light that Claire and Teddy left a 1-star rating for a previous host, Vera, which in turn drives her to attack the travelers at Rebecca's property. Hoping to help her new besties out, Rebecca ties Vera to a tree and stabs the disgruntled host to death. However, as Vera springs back to life, it's revealed she and Rebecca were in cahoots to teach Claire and Teddy a valuable lesson, not to spitefully leave negative reviews. Although the bloggers discovered the dead bodies of Rebecca's previous victims, first-time viewers will assume that this was all part of the elaborate ruse. But when Teddy asks about the corpses, Rebecca rams her blade through Vera's face, proving she's been a psychopathic killer all along. Number 8, The Tall Man. One literary technique that's almost as effective as a plot twist is the red herring, and few horror films utilize this misleading trick better than The Tall Man. This Slender Man-inspired drama revolves around Julia, a nurse who lives in a derelict town called Cold Rock. Local kids regularly go missing, inspiring legends involving a child-abducting bogeyman called the Tall Man. When Julia's son, Danny, is kidnapped, she does everything she can to retrieve him. After finding Danny, she discovers the kidnapper is Danny's real mother, meaning Julia was the abductor all along. After being exposed, Julia confesses she's murdered dozens of mistreated children over the years, believing death was more merciful. This revelation is extra hard-hitting since Julia seemed like such a pure-hearted person up until this point. However, Julia's so-called confession is another misdirect, as in the closing moments it's revealed Julia works for an organization that rescues abused or poverty-stricken children and finds them better families. And to avoid the organization being exposed and having Danny return to his deadbeat mother, Julia pretended she killed the missing kids. The Tall Man is a real emotional rollercoaster since Julia is perceived as a hero, then an irredeemable monster, and then a hero again. Number 7, Trick or Treat. Michael Dougherty's horror anthology Trick or Treat is composed of 4 stories surrounding the citizens of Warren City on Halloween. These tales involve a child-killing principal, a curmudgeon being tormented by a Halloween spirit, a group of nasty trick-or-treaters, and a bunch of sorority girls being hunted by a hooded maniac. Each story stands out thanks to its imaginative premise, spooky atmosphere, and witty dialogue, with the 4 chapters also effortlessly interweaving with one another, while still feeling like a self-contained story. On top of that, each tale wraps things up with a twist that's clever, horrifying, and hilarious. After 1 or 2 of these subplots reach their conclusion, you'd think you could figure out how the others are going to end. Despite that, Trick or Treat pulls the wool over our eyes so well that the most attentive of us won't see any of these last-minute reveals coming. And what makes these frightful epiphanies leave such an impression is the fact that they're repeatedly foreshadowed, so the audience feels like they should have figured them out. Trick or Treat may only be 82 minutes long, but it's packed with enough curveballs to leave anyone reeling for days. Number 6. Shutter. Thai's supernatural flick Shutter is a great example of how a twist is significantly more impactful when it's staring you right in the face the whole time. Shutter follows Tun, a photographer who feels like he's recently put on a lot of weight and is suffering intense neck pain. When he learns his ex-girlfriend from college took her own life, he suspects he's being haunted by her ghost. After discovering his college friends have also recently died, Tun suspects that his ex-girlfriend is responsible. And when knowing ghosts appear in photos, Tun snaps pictures of his surroundings to try and spot her, but to no avail. Although initially the ghost seems wicked, Tun's wife discovers that he and his friends abused her in college, which drove her to take her own life. Following that, she was reborn as a vengeful spirit who won't rest until she's punished her tormentors. As horrifying as that all sounds, it's not the most disturbing part. Tun becomes frustrated that he can't see the ghost in photos, compelling him to hurl his camera in anger. Upon hitting the ground, the camera snaps Tun and shows the spirit has been resting on his shoulders the entire time, which is why he felt so heavy and has been suffering neck pain. This revelation causes Tun to fall out of a window, leaving him permanently crippled. The final shot of Shutter shows the ghost sitting on Tun's paralyzed body, where she'll remain until his dying day. Number 5. The Hunt. The Hunt is a perfect example of how to use 2 twists back-to-back effectively. This dark satire begins with multimillionaire Athena Stone texting her friends on a group chat about their plans to hunt deplorables at her manor. Soon after, we're introduced to Crystal and several other characters who are being hunted for sport. Due to the opening scene, it's assumed that these unwilling contestants are being pursued by elitists like Athena, which is a theory compounded when Crystal stumbles upon Athena's lair later on. However, everything is turned on its head when the demented socialite explains how her group chat comments were in jest. When the discussion was leaked online, conspiracy theorists took Athena's words literally, destroying her reputation. Out for revenge, she turned the deplorable hunt into a reality, killing the people who spread lies about her. It seems the tables have turned in this moment, with Athena depicted as a tragic figure while Crystal is portrayed as the villain. Still, the protagonist destroys the shunned entrepreneur's argument, pointing out that Athena has mixed Crystal up with a conspiracy theorist with a similar name. Not only did Crystal play no part in Athena's downfall, she had never even heard of her. This was a great double twist, since you momentarily felt like the antagonist was misunderstood, only for the rug to be pulled out from under you a moment later. Number 4. Identity. Even though James Mangold's Whodunit should be praised for its character dynamic, creative kills, and atmosphere, it's best known for its triple twist. Identity opens with limo driver Ed, cop Samuel, and kid called Timmy, and several other strangers getting stranded in a motel during a rainstorm. Just when it seems like things couldn't get any worse, the group starts being picked off, indicating there's a murderer among them. While this is going on, the story routinely cuts away to a psychiatrist called Dr. Malik, who's talking about death row inmate Malcolm Rivers. At the halfway point of Identity, it's revealed the scenario in the motel isn't real, and all the characters there only exist in Malcolm's mind, one of which has murderous tendencies. Malik believes Malcolm will be cured of his homicidal cravings if the evil persona is destroyed. As the motel scenario continues, Samuel is exposed as a convict who impersonated the cop he murdered while being transferred. When Samuel is killed, Malcolm's hostile impulses are seemingly quashed. However, Identity's final scene proves otherwise. Although Although Samuel was a psycho, he wasn't the murderer killing people in the motel. Through an elaborate flashback, it's revealed that the little boy Timmy was behind the massacre all along. Though identity could have worked fine with its first two twists, this final one cemented it as one of the most mind-bending psychological thrillers ever. Number 3. The Call. Sci-fi thriller The Call centers around So-Yun, a young woman who keeps receiving calls from a mysterious person called Young-Suk who lives 20 years in the past. During their chats, So-Young mentions her father died decades ago after her mother left the stove on. Young-Suk sneaks into So-Yun's house and turns the stove off, so the father never died. Now that So-Yun is reunited with her dead dad, she's compelled to do anything to repay her new friend. When she researches the caller's past online, she discovers Young-Suk will be murdered by her stepmother that day. After she warns her, Young-Suk kills her stepmother in self-defense. But when a neighbor stumbles upon the stepmother's body, Young-Suk slaughters him to cover her tracks. And after So-Yun tries to undo the caller's actions, Young-Suk starts killing anyone who stands in her way. Once the pair finally meet in modern time, Young-Suk makes the staggering revelation that after saving So-Yun's father, she saw So-Yun turn the stove on, meaning she was responsible for her father's death all along. After Young-Suk is pushed off a balcony, So-Yun makes amends with her mother, seemingly living happily ever after. But it's not over, as a flashback reveals that Young-Suk called herself in the past, telling her to fake her own death. Young-Suk went into hiding after seemingly dying from that fall, with the story concluding with her murdering So-Yun's mother, the final shot indicating that the protagonist will be joining her very soon. Number 2. Frailty. Although Bill Paxton was a beloved actor, he never got enough love for his directorial debut, Frailty. That 2001 psychological drama kicks off with Fenton informing FBI agent Doyle that his brother Adam is the elusive killer known as the God's Hand. The bulk of the story then takes place in a flashback with Fenton and Adam as kids. While growing up, their father, known only as Dad as played by Paxton himself, was a working-class mechanic who suffered religious hallucinations. Believing he was chosen by God, Dad pressurized his sons to help him butcher people he thought to be demons. Recognizing his father was mentally ill, Fenton executed Dad, putting an end to his evil crusade. However, Adam was too brainwashed to see through his father's dogma, inspiring him to kill people in the same fashion, or so it seems. In the final moments, the person speaking to Doyle identifies himself as Adam, meaning the protagonist was the serial killer all along, or so it seems. Again, turns out, Dad was chosen by God, meaning his supposed victims really were demons. As for the reason why Fenton slaughtered his father, well, that's because he himself was a disciple of Satan. Even though the truth is hinted at repeatedly, this double twist will catch everybody out upon a first viewing of Frailty. Number 1. Triangle. Triangle follows Jess, a mother who goes on a yacht trip with her friends to give herself a break from her son Tommy. After being swept up in a storm, the group seeks refuge on an ocean liner, only for the vessel to be weirdly empty, save for a hostile figure wearing a burlap sack who hunts Jess and her friends. As this tale unravels, Jess fatally wounds the hooded person, but only after the stalker has killed everybody else. Before falling off the ship, the murderer warns Jess that she can only escape if she slaughters the others. And when she notices her friends arriving on the ship in the yacht, including herself, Jess realizes she's caught in a time loop. Unfortunately, when Jess fails to stop her party from dying, the time loop resets. Deciding to heed the killer's words, Jess puts on the burlap sack and murders her friends, proving that she was the killer all along. After being pushed off the boat by her counterpart, Jess washes up near her house hours before she was due to set sail. While walking home, our lead character then sees her past self abusing her son. Vowing to make amends, Jess kills past Jess and replaces her before taking young Tommy for a drive. Tragically, she's involved in a car crash that results in Tommy's death. With nothing left to live for, Jess returns to the yacht, kickstarting the previous events all over again, and proving that past Jess was actually future Jess the entire time. Triangle is such a mind-bender, not just due to the multiple timelines, but because viewers will erroneously follow the timelines in the wrong order upon their first watch. With this in mind, rewatching Triangle isn't just encouraged, but necessary to appreciate it. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is not the only video we have on this topic, so for the original video, click the link on the screen now.